Ashley Ramos, thank you for joining us on the Illinois Channel. And we are in a period of time where there are a lot of demonstrations being held around the country against the police. Some are violent. In fact, as we tape this on the 9th of September, in about the last week or so, there is something like 6 police chiefs in communities across the nation have resigned, including Dallas and Seattle and a number of other major cities. So in the course of this wave of anti-police feelings and rhetoric, you are countering that, and you have started Back the Blue. You have a website, and let's see if I can bring that up. It's backtheblueevents.org. Tell us a bit about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Well, thank you very much for having me. My goal and mission is to provide support to police and first responders and to bring a better sense of community back between the two. So we started this in Chicago when the Columbus statue, when the police officers were injured there. I said enough is enough, and I had some great like-minded people who helped me organize to get that together. We had people like Mancow, John Catanzara, a lot of politicians came, and voiced that they agreed and that they wanted to support the police. And that was the first big rally that I ever held. After that, we did some other rallies across the Chicagoland area, where again it was very well received, and we were able to let the police know that we were there to support them, and that there were people in the community that want them to be there, and that we understand their struggle. They wake up every day with the intention of putting their lives on the line before anybody else's. So they should be appreciated for that, and not torn down. We have had definitely, we've had some pushback because of that. Antifa and BLM are definitely not friendly with me on a normal basis. They definitely don't like what I'm doing, but I had that conversation with God, and I am definitely resolute in making sure that our police officers know that they have support.
Well, I think it's commendable, number one, that you are doing this. The police, thank goodness, are there. It would be a horrible world if we didn't have the police officers. And while there's always going to be a bad police officer, a bad doctor, a bad teacher, a bad journalist, the vast majority, as in all of our professions, the vast majority of the police are doing very good jobs. And unlike the majority of our professions, they're putting their life on the line when they go out there to defend us. And it would be an ugly world if we didn't have police officers. And we can see what happens when we look at Portland, Oregon, and the violence that's going on there, and the tearing down of not only statues, but the firing, burning down of buildings and communities, and the murders by some of those Antifas. We had the fellow in, I forget where the shooting was. I believe it might have been in Portland, where he shot someone, and then federal officials a couple of days later found him and killed him. So there's certainly a violent element out there that the people that you are demonstrating against. And the other thing I would say is, America is the land of the free, home of the brave. We have the right of free speech. And I'm a journalist. The First Amendment, the right of free speech, is very important for all of us. And it certainly extends to you and extends to your ability to have your say. And it's sad to hear that you're being threatened by those that are trying to shout you down and stop you from having your own say while they go out and protest and say what they want to say.
Yeah, they went as far as to make a website that they follow me to all of my events, and they dox me and anybody who is involved with me, and they make their threats and things to that nature, but it doesn't stop me, and I hope that it doesn't stop anybody else that like you said, is using their right to have a voice peacefully, doing it the right way. And I would also advise to anyone who doesn't believe that this is their problem because it's not in their area, or it's not, it hasn't reached them yet. I would definitely tell you that just because it's not there yet, the word there is yet. This is something that we have been advised is not going to end in the major cities. This is just a test run. So this is something that there's organizations out there that are quite large that have every intention of, spreading this kind of rhetoric across the United States. And it's sad and it's unfortunate because there's so many good people out there who feel like they can't voice their patriotism or support their police officers. But I would say that you definitely need to. It's something that we should all definitely be doing.
I want to bring up this is one of your rallies. This is in St. Louis, and it's a little hard to see. Let me bring up another one here. Here's a little bit of a close-up where we can see, if you look in the back, there's a anti-Trump sign, and in St. Louis is where David Dorn, who is a retired police officer, was killed because he went out to a friend's store and was trying to protect it, and a violent, I don't even want to call him protester, but a violent individual shot and killed him. And so St. Louis was the site of where Mr. Dorn had lived and where he was killed. And yet, too, as you're having your event here, the St. Louis Peace Walk 2020, we have, as you say, you're being followed. Those who are attending are being followed by some of the people that you had invited and participated in your event. How do you reach out, number one, to how do you organize where you go? How do you get the people that show up to go where you want to be? And if people are watching us and they want to join your group and go out and show their support for police officers, how can they participate?
A lot of what we do is social media. We're on Facebook, Back the Blue events. If you just put Back the Blue, it's going to bring up a whole line. But if you put Back the Blue events, it'll bring you straight to us. We're on Twitter. We have our website, backtheblueevents.org. So those are all ways that we try to make sure people know when we're doing events, or if they need to get a hold of us to ask, if they want to volunteer. We do a lot of volunteer work through the police, and we give out cards and stuff so people find out about that. We give out drinks and food to officers that we know are on long shifts that can't make it away from where they are. And as for how the events happen, a lot of the times we try to choose places where we know that they need the support, like Homan Square. There was an officer who committed suicide, and we wanted to let them know that there's support out there, that those kinds of things don't need to happen. You showed a picture of St. Louis, and that one's a very sensitive one for me. It almost is emotional on a completely different level, because Ann Dorn and Kim Kowalski are they were the major players in that march, and they are such beautiful souls. Ann Dorn is an amazing person, and they're both so inspiring. And they're actually going to be here in Illinois, and I will not give the location that they're going to be speaking at, because there's just too many people out there who would wish to do them harm. But they will be in Illinois soon, making that speech and bringing those ideals of peace and support for police officers. So I'm very blessed and proud to know them both.
I think Ann Dorn spoke during the Republican National Convention, did she not?
She did. She did. Yes. Great person.
Yeah, and then she was also on the White House lawn the last night when the president gave his speech. So it's amazing how people who were just, she was in bed going to sleep when her husband was out guarding, she expected him to come back. And we see how people are swept up in events, and all of a sudden here she is at the White House, probably the last thing she ever expected to have happen to her. But it goes to show how many different people around the country are being impacted by this. When you have started these, do you have police officers to come out? They might be coming out because they're on duty to maybe protect your group from anti-protesters. What kind of response do you get from the police officers who might share how they feel about you having a pro-police rally?
They're usually very positively responsive. Some of them try not to get too interactive just because they don't want to end up having issues of their own with doxing. So, they'll let us know that we appreciate it, but it's usually from afar to a certain extent. We have some officers who they'll just very blatantly come up and give hugs, because they're like, I don't care, they hate us anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then some, they'll keep their distance. But overall, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And I would honestly say the hardest part for me is that, like I said, there's these officers that they don't get a break anymore. They're on 12-hour shifts. They go home, if they're lucky, for 8 hours, they sleep, and then they're right back on the job. And, we bring them water, and we'll bring them snacks, and we'll say, hey, and before they knew who we were, because we have certain t-shirts and identifiers so that they know that it's safe to take things from us. But before we were able to create those identifiers, that they would know, but, other people wouldn't necessarily replicate, they were very hesitant even to take a bottle of water or a bag of chips because they didn't know if we were trying to give them something that they shouldn't be having. And I was like, this is terrible, that they have to worry so much about a simple act of kindness just because of the terrible things that have been done to them. That was one of the most disturbing things I've ever experienced when it comes to this.
I've been putting up the website backtheblueevents.org. If someone wants to attend your event, can they sign up to join, or do you have to sign up, or do you?
You don't have to sign up.
So if so your website's going to say, hey, we're going to be meeting at a certain place, whether it's Chicago or Springfield or Decatur or wherever, on this date, and then people can just come and show up. Huh?
Yes, there are public events. We're actually going to start putting up other events too, not just ours that we're hosting, but there's other places, other people who are trying to get the word out as well. So we're going to start posting those as well. There are some private events that, if you message and there's a thing at the bottom that says, you can subscribe or send an email. There are some private events, that are less known to others, that you have to email to find out about. But for the most part, they're on the website or they're on the Facebook page, and we want as many people to come as possible. Not just the support the police aspect, but the feeling of community that we've lost due to, these rhetorics that you almost have to be separated. You almost have to pick a side. No, you don't. There's people out there that will respect you for your opinion and who you are, and we can make changes in a positive manner. It doesn't have to be so divided. So we definitely want to bring that, back as.
I think it's amazing that you're doing this and that you get other people. I think, there are a lot of people around the country who watch what's going on in where the violence is happening, as you say, where we saw in Chicago. We've seen it in so many different places. It was just a few years ago, we had 5 police officers shot in one night in Dallas, and sadly there's just been a kind of an explosion of violence by some of these very hard left core Antifa kind of people. And as we said at the beginning of the interview, that we had a number of police chiefs. We've had these movements of defund the police. We've had the police chief of Seattle who resigned because she wasn't getting the support that she felt she needed for her department. If other people, and we are the Illinois channel, but in this day and age of YouTube, sometimes we get people responding. It's amazing, from Australia, England, South Africa, Canada. So if there are people around the United States, let's say, who want to start their own group, what kind of advice would you have for them to go out and show support for their police force?
I would say, no matter what anybody tells you to do it. If you have any questions, please email me. I'll be happy to help you start in whatever way is going to be best for you. Backtheblueevents@gmail.com. It's all pretty straightforward. All of it's backtheblueevents@gmail.com. I'll be happy to help you. There's plenty of support out there, and there's plenty of ways to get donations. There's a lot of really generous people out there that want to see more Back the Blue. And we do too. Like, if anybody wants to donate, it all goes to helping police officers or their families of the injured. So it's a really great program that we're trying to put together. But just don't let me tell you to stop, because there's going to be people out there that are going to say, oh, you're going to get attacked, or oh, you're going to get doxxed, or oh, you're going to get this. Well, the point is that if we don't do something about it now, it's going to happen anyway. That, or you're just going to be silenced, and who wants to live that way? So.
Have you had much incidences where, I mean, it's one thing if people want to shout you down. I imagine that's happened looking at some of the photos. But has there been any violence, or is it, hopefully it's been nonviolent as far as physical altercations? What experience has it been? Have you had?
For the most part, we've been fortunate not to have too much violence. We've had a few instances where they've tried to burn flags, they've banged their pots and pans. They've reached over the line a few times to grab people, and there's been like minimal altercations in that respect. But I have to give a shout out to one of our team members. Her name is M. Cahill. She started a page called Protest the Protesters that works in congruence with Back the Blue events. But she goes to pro blue and protests that are just purely protests, and she documents them and she videos them, and she is now called the girl who stood alone, because she saw these police officers who were about to get ganged up on, and there was a line of them, and she alone stood with her little blue sign in a line in front of these police officers. And there were protesters in front of her, and one of them tried to attack her, and thankfully, actually, before the police could even get to her, a protester grabbed the guy back on their line and said, what are you doing? She's standing by herself. Like, she's not who we're here for. We're here for the police. So it was kind of crazy, to watch the footage that ended up coming out from that night. But yeah, we've definitely seen an uptick in threats and people willing to go a little farther than what you would think would be reasonable to stop people from just simply saying that they support police officers. It's quite. It's interesting.
If someone wants to join your organization, are there dues, or can people just come and just join and be part of the group? And then, how many is this building momentum, or where do you see it going with this organization?
There are no fees. There is no dues. This is all about supporting each other and supporting the police officers. I mean, we do take donations because all of those donations, help us do these things. But as for being a volunteer, no. Once you start coming to the events or you start working with us, you get a T-shirt, that we all wear when we go out, so that way we can recognize each other, and also people who support the organization. But other than that, it's just getting in contact with us, sending the email, letting people know. And the organization has grown, not just mine, but even other places, like you said, other Indiana, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Florida has reached out, Texas, people from California, not so much in like the Portland and Seattles of the world or the New Yorks, but there's definitely other places that are both blue and red that have reached out and said, hey, we appreciate what you guys are doing. This is amazing. We want to do it here, or we've already started here. There's people who've requested that we come to different places, but some of us still work, or, we have other things going on. So we can't always travel, but we hope in the future that we'll be able to get people in the organization that can travel, and be part of other pro-blue instances that are happening across the country.
And I know you've been predominantly through the Midwest, but obviously in Chicago, and we've shown you've been in St. Louis, so you really cover the gamut. And so if there's anyone in the state of Illinois, they can reach out and say, hey, we would like to have form our own group, or we'd like to have maybe you come down, or some other speakers or whatever. Let's just briefly cover that. What happens at these events? Do you march? Do you sing? What is it that goes on?
They're all different. It depends on the situation. Most of the time we have speakers that come. We have guest speakers like Dorn. And we always say the Pledge of Allegiance. We always say a prayer. We try to get, the chaplains for the police department of whatever area that we're in. We always ask them if they would like to come say the prayer, because obviously they're the most important parts is the police. Sometimes it's a march, sometimes it's a rally where we're just talking, people from the community get to talk, politicians get to talk. We actually, and I got to give a shout out to Raymond Lopez. He is the only Democratic leader that has said, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to stand too, because I don't agree what's happening in Chicago. So he's he is an excellent example of how you can cross party lines if it means better for your communities. We were also in Kenosha. I was not there during the riots, but part of my team was, and we had footage from that. And actually, Em was on Fox News because she was there when Bob, the mattress guy, when he was hit and they broke his jaw, which he's still recovering from, but thank God he's doing much better now. So I was there in the aftermath. Unfortunately, I saw some of the heartbreakingly terrible things that happened there. But we're not afraid to see both ends of it, to go do these rallies and do these marches, and then if people have a story to tell or if there's something that needs to be seen, we go there too.
SG Ramos, it's commendable not only for you to be doing this and to offer to help others, but to have all the other people who join you and to show the support. We can always make improvements in policing, but we never want to be without the police. And as you said, sadly, there was a police officer. We've heard about Army veterans killing themselves on something like 22 a day, but people may not know that. I mean, with all the pressures that are on police officers, they too are often too many times where we see suicide among the ranks of police officers. And for you and others to be showing your support for them, especially at this time where they're under such pressure, I think it's very commendable. And I appreciate you joining us on the Illinois channel. Maybe we can catch up again in the future and update our audience as to what you're doing and how it's growing. And again, if they want to participate, they can reach out and go to your website, backtheblueevents.org. We thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.